Okay, guys, here we go. Sorry, just making sure that I wasn't muted and that. But anyways, happy Tuesday. Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Anyways, thank you guys for being here. Of course, if you haven't hit that like and share for Jack and Lily, please do so. And hi, Nurse. How are you? Colleen's in the house. Grey Wolf. Say some highs first. And thank you guys for being here. Corbin's in the house. Shannon. There she is. Love you, girl. And Dodie. Dodie. Just Ducky. 007 is in the house. Hi, Autumn. How are you? And Sweet Shannon. Good to see you, my friend. Hi, Envision. How are you? And let's see here. Uh, I want to say gas first, but I know it's gas. Anyways, how are you guys today? Hi, Root Strength. Welcome to the live, you guys. Skip dinner. I'm a little cold, so I made a nice hot cup of coffee. Can't say it's cold over here at all. Maybe tomorrow I think it's supposed to be kind of shitty. Hi, Shy. How are you? Just want to make sure. Hi, Leanne. Sue's in the house. And scrolling. This is my first time actually making it to the beginning of one of Sunny's lives. Wow. Hi, Just Jeannie. How are you? And Crystal's in the house. Hi, Kimberly. Prayers for Jack and Lily. Absolutely. And Mike's in the house. Anyways, I hope you guys are having had a great day. I know it's like, right. So if anyone doesn't know that's, say, newer here, I'm from like the Vancouver west side area of BC here. But, obviously Nova Scotia is a 4-hour difference. So it's going to be obviously like 7:34 over there. And then there's some people in the middle of that. But anyways, I've kind of like had the earlier shifts. Well, this is the second week, then it runs out. So that's why I can do some earlier lives. Hi, Detective Tam. How are you? Pictou County Jail. Hi, Sunny Chat and Mods. Yep. Nova Nana's in the house. Truth, Gypsy. And don't forget, you guys, again, like I've said in the last couple lives, I intend to only leave this as subscribers only. That way it's limited to the people that can chat, because I feel like the subscribers, that they're the ones that deserve to be able to, I can see their chats and put them up, than just some random people that want to just come to the channel. They can watch, but they can't obviously make a comment in the chat unless they become a subscriber. And I just think that that's fair, right? Because this way it tones it down a bit, and it lets the people that are truly following the channel have the ability to have their, comments shown up there. I think it's fair. So I'm going to stick with that. Missy Mom, how are you? Carrie, how are you? Sunny, you did a great job letting him talk. Well, that's what you're really supposed to do for the most part, right? When you have some, kind of like when Darren was on too, you just let them say whatever they want to, because that's the point, right? Hi, Cheryl. I desert you for dessert, but thank you for becoming a new member. Appreciate that, you guys. I guess I really should think about doing a members live at some point, eh? Haven't done one of those in a long time. Yes, Sunny, you did it. Oh, I already read that. Duh. Oh, wait. Yes, Sunny did a good job. Letting him talk. The more he talks, the more people and gather and decipher his lies. Pauline Smith. Hi, Sunny in chat. Hi, Marlene. Hi, Sammy. Okay. I'm just going to. Hi, Marie. I think we're getting down to the bottom. Share Cares is in the house. Yep. Doing well. Just finished my day of work. Oh, actually, I want to show you guys something in a second. Hi, Peace. How are you? Wisdom Beauty, thank you guys for being here. Johnny and MZ. Okay. If I missed anybody, Truth. Did I say Truth already? Chester. Hi. Hello, Native Girl. There's Cheryl. Thank you very much. Hi, Jesse. there's more than one side to every story or every truth. I actually enjoyed that live that you had Daniel on. He seemed so much clear-headed. Yeah. And yeah, if he ever honestly wants to come up and, answer more questions and stuff like that, because I mean, I wasn't like, he offered to come up, and so he did. And it was like a Sunny Daniel marathon live, that one on the I could, like I said, I could have gone longer if I didn't have to work or get up at 4:30 that morning and stuff like that. So I was actually just amazed, because one minute I'm looking at it and it's 2.5 hours. Hi, show up, Mima. Thank you for becoming a member. I appreciate that. Again, first and foremost, and take it with whatever you want, but it's always will be about the victims of cases. And so when I do ask you to, of course, hit the like and the share, it's honestly just to keep it out in the algorithm for no other reason. Victims deserve, that don't have voices, to be voices for them. And that's one of the best things that we can do, is kind of hit the like and share, keep their stories out there, and keep reminding people of what this is about. But yeah, so it's one of those things. Again, for whatever people wanted to say about that live, they could have, you know. Again, it was just about letting someone, if they wanted to answer a question. And again, it really, if you believe Daniel or don't believe Daniel, it's everyone has that prerogative. But the point is that, to me, if family members want to speak, regardless, right? So either you can look at it like more inconsistencies, or maybe it swayed someone a different way, perhaps, but again, it's the family members that you want to hear from, regardless, on there. So, and again, however one wants to deem it, like I said, we all kind of have our feelings about this case, but the bottom line is, we don't actually know what happened to Jack and Lily. Everything is just a bunch of speculation and assumptions, right? But the thing is that still, you look at it logically, and logically, it's going to be two kids just don't disappear, usually, almost always, when there's no family involvement or somebody close to the children. That's just the way it is. And so that's logically looking at it, right? Not that they got taken and then, managed to be hidden without people talking in a reward. The likelihood of that is so slim. Like, even when Rob McCann was speaking there again, at the end, he referenced that, basically saying that they believe that the children are dead. But you always still want to have that bit of hope, because honestly, all of us would want that best outcome, no matter what, even if it seems like it's unlikely. Absolutely, it is unlikely at this point, but it would be like the best thing to ever happen, is to see Jack and Lily. That would be my wish. Even if they, never ended up in the mother's hands again and stuff like that, or people that, like, all you want is for that these two children to be alive, for sure. But in the care, if they are, like, let's just say, miraculously that they are, you just want them to never have to be in that type of environment again. And you would never want to see them, to me. Definitely, I don't want to see Daniel so much, because like, he's not the biological parent, right? Malay is the biological mother of the children. So, and just like I said, I hope the same thing for Meadow. Seeing what we saw, uh, uh, whether it's documents, CPS, whether it's from the school, all that stuff adds up to, what we feel, maybe the kids were with their home life. We'll put it that way. Hi, Deborah Dixon. How are you? Gray Wolf's in the house. You did great live with Danielle. Well, I'm glad you guys appreciate it. I mean, I think a lot of people can definitely see that, you know, Daniel has definitely gathered himself together more. And again, take it with whatever you feel like. But obviously, there's a big noticeable difference, with how he was speaking and how he was talking. I feel like I felt like a little bit like an AI freaking swallowed his voice a little bit there, because he was more fluent, and he came across like what you would deem as more normal, not jittered in a sense, not, like in his first interviews when he was doing, and he was more jittery in his talk and stuff like that. And then the more interviews he did, the more you saw him obviously be more confident and stuff like that. And not to say he wasn't confident from the start, but meaning, when you don't sit there and be in the camera limelight and then you're kind of thrust into it. Now I know that people can say that for Malaya for her first only interview that she did, but there was a lot of stuff that, as a parent that has two children missing, just the words, the stuff that she was saying, the lack of saying their names, the amount of talking that she did with about how much the kids talk to strangers and stuff like that. That's how it came across, regardless. And unfortunately for us, it was the only interview that she did, but it was, to me, a horrible interview for what it was, right? So people can still deem it as, you know, however you want to deem it, to be honest. But I deem it as like I deem Barry Morphew's interview when Suzanne was missing, is that as soon as I hear it, I'm just like, bullshit, just bullshit, because that's how it came across. And I couldn't imagine ever saying that, well, it's a sunny day, so I just hope they're warm. I couldn't imagine saying something like that, but she did. And like I said, the perception is there because of that interview, especially. And then, hiding herself in a sense from the public eye and not coming back out. And again, I just, there's no sugarcoating the fact of those actions as a parent. Anyone that's a parent can't understand those. Some people want to make excuses and stuff. I'm not about excuses for people. You put yourself aside and you do what's right. And when to do what's right is to fight for your children and fight for people to help keep the awareness out there. And that's the bottom line of it. Native girl, 7 months. Hello, everybody. Okay. Hi, Nana. I'm just gonna scroll down here. Oh, let me quickly show you this. Okay, so this is, well, my desk at my work, right? But anyways, so when I came into work today, one of my fellow team members was like, Sunny, I don't know why, but I saw this and I just thought of you and had to get it for you. And so it says, throw on some leopard skin and be bloody fabulous. So it just made me feel like all warm and huggy inside, because I know that I think about people and do things, but it is nice when other people think of you, and, you know, like they're going about their day and then they see something and then it's like, oh, I'm going to get this for Sunny. So thank you so much to, well, her name is Kim. But anyways, and then you guys see the little plants that are on the side. So I was really sick about a month or so, like month and a half ago, and I had a really bad flu, and it was like a horrible flu, really. But anyways, so Sandy, she had brought me these two little plants and said, I was thinking of you, and so those are so sweet, and those little note to self and change your mind. Uh, One of the girls that I had trained with a couple years ago, she had moved to the different office, but she had bought me those off of Temu, because we were like Temu shopping. And then there's those little glass eggs, and little from Easter and Christmas. And one of the team leads is always buys these little glass things for all the different occasions and stuff like that. And then we were opening up Easter eggs, and there was more of the little chickies in there. And so basically, I have a little collection of those because, I'm in customer service, and whether people like me or not, don't care. I've been in it for 40 years, okay? And it's because I do a damn good job at it, because I am very caring and I do like to help people. Now, online, true crime, you deal with a lot of venomous people. And I just don't put up with it. And I don't really care. Like I've said, that I don't really care what people say about me. like put me in your mouth on a one of your lives, and I would honestly have to give a shit, and I don't, right? Because I've been doing this stuff for 40 years. I know who I am and I know what I do. And this channel is only based around because of caring. Okay. It's not based around clicks and views. Views obviously help algorithm to bring awareness and that, but that's not my motivation for anything that I do. So for anyone that is new to the channel, welcome. Thank you for being here. And okay, I'll put Jack. Anyways, thank you to my beautiful friends at work that think about me. Thank you, thank you. Missing persons. What messages are you talking about? Truth. I'm just talking about like basically the horde of messages throughout the time of things that Daniel said or things that Malaya said. Along the way. As for Jack and Lily, obviously, we all just want to find truth and justice for Jack and Lily. And every day that goes by, we hope that the answers come. But obviously, it's over a year. And it's not that I don't believe they'll come. I believe it all becomes a matter of evidence and, getting that piece of information that they need to lead to what happened to Jack and Lily exactly, right? Getting someone to talk is not easy to do. You have given us the best interviews in this case. Cheryl, I appreciate that. Appreciate you saying that. I honestly have never thought Daniel was the one that unlocked those children. Maybe my discernment is shit, but I just don't get that. And again, so reminder, everyone's entitled to their opinions, how you feel. Just be respectful, especially to the person that can boot your ass, and you can come in again all you want, but I'm just saying it's about being adults, right? And that we can have conversations and we can make comments, but it's about don't be attacking other people because of their views. And because I like this whole Malaya Daniel side and stuff like that, don't care about that stuff. I don't care who's, wanting to do more on that person. Yeah, this.
$2 Canadian, you're awesome. Thank you. All I want to say is welcome on back, Sunny. Hugging face emoji.
I'll come to that in just a second. Thank you. Pictou Shan already said she would let MBM talk on her live, so someone else will have to reach out to her. Hey, if Malaya ever finds a space on a live and stuff like that, maybe one day she will. Maybe she will, maybe she won't, right? But if she does, so be it. I mean, honestly, like I said, she's been quiet for a long time. I'm just definitely not impressed with being the mother of two children missing and the actions that I've saw for sure, right? Regardless of involvement or non-involvement, it's just it's for me, I just can't like get on that train of it. But hey, whatever. I don't, like I said, for me it's Jack and Lily. I don't care what channels are doing what and their channels, at all. Even though I was watching some of how do you guys know I don't like to say his channel. If he was a better person, I would have so much more respect, but he's not a great person. But so I'll just say the show that Anita keeps talking on. What a shit show. I'll just say that. Like, seriously, like, every time you think that this case gets out of hand or ridiculous, and it just rears its head again, and then, you got, whether it was Jordan or Chance or whatever, then you get the curse words coming out and the, blah blah blah. But my thing is this. You know what? If you're gonna sit there and let me just say this: if Anita's gonna do what she's gonna do, right? Then if people talk to her that way, because of all the accusations about getting the salami in jail, then so be it, right? But it was like you're watching it and you're laughing because it's just so ridiculous what you're watching, but by the same token, you're like, well, you know what? If people want to argue and stuff like that, and if it ever eventually brings out truth to Jack and Lily, so be it. I personally don't think that any of those people have anything to do with Jack and Lily's disappearance, but it's kind of like you get what you ask for in a sense, right? And so, you know, she's going to sit there and call them out and basically tell them all they're going to get the salami in jail. And anyways, I was just going, like, what the hell am I just watching right now, to be honest with you? I was actually, was just trying to watch it for some information that I felt, would be more accurate, but it was a hard watch actually on both of it, because it was just like turning on to Days of Our Lives or As the World Turns bullshit in there. But anyways, whatever. Um, After hearing Daniel on MD on Sunday after 9 Hour Live, he showed how angry he is and how dangerous he is. After hearing Daniel on MD on Sunday, see, Pictou, I went back to listen to that, and I don't know what you guys are talking about, because like it was okay. So at the park, so at the 10-minute mark, somewhere in there was this weird thing that he played, like a voice changer, little weird thing, like, but it was like no more than a sentence long. And all the other stuff I had listened to, and I don't believe that, like, meaning when they showed Chance Lays, I don't believe, like, that's all I heard was basically this person called Chance calling, telling Anita she's a C word and telling her to, blah, blah, blah. And then I heard this phone call from Gordon, but I'm not sure where you guys keep telling me about this, where Daniel was and all of that, because I don't believe that that voice that I heard coming from, like the one voice coming from Chance Lays, that part to me wasn't Daniel. That was to me Chance Lays. So I'm not really sure about that still, because I did go back a couple times and I was like, what is people talking about with that on there? Oh, hey, Caught Facts. Obviously it was Suzanne Morphew's birthday, or some birthday. It was her 1 year. I'm getting it mixed up. Oh my goodness. 6 years. 6 years, people, for Suzanne Morphew. But anyways, justice for Suzanne Morphew. That was in 2020 for anyone. So May 10th came around the other day. And of course, Suzanne Morphew disappeared May 10th on Mother's Day, 2020. And justice will get served this time for Suzanne Morphew. Anyways, nice to see you, Cop Facts. And let's see here. Daniel has had a year to try to improve his narrative. You know, at the end of the day, it's just one of those things, right? Just waiting on answers. Cop Facts. Okay, I don't know why I can't think of his name all of a sudden, but always this one person would say, just trust the process, right? It might not come. Obviously, it's been a year for Jack and Lily, but trust the process. And those are wise words, to be honest with you, because again, what they're doing behind the scenes and what we know versus what they know, and it might take time, it might take years, but eventually, usually the process will bring out the truth of what happened to Jack and Lily, and anyone else that's missing and murdered. And like I said, I believe that Barry Morphew will have his day, and he'll finally get his just desserts for his wife Suzanne Morphew. But that trial and stuff like that, it will play out the way it's meant to play out. But anyone that's a victim of anything to do with anyone hurting anyone, you just want justice. You want people to pay for their crimes and just be accountable for what they've done. And sadly, in my world, I could never imagine hurting someone, you know. Um, so I find it hard that people take it that far, you know, in a lot of these, well, in any of the cases, really. Um, Daniel would also be clear headed because he's not stoned. Do, 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 do. Let's see. Do, do, do. Probably. Hi, little black bear. Good to see you. You're the sunshine. Oh, usually I walk into work always singing, "Here comes the sun." Boom, 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 boom. Actually, one of the girls' passwords is that, and she's like showing me, especially when the sun's out. Hi, Power from Northern Ontario. Nice to see you. Hi, Lolo. She does not act like a mother who loves her children or cares where they are, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, bottom line is it's definitely it's two children missing. I'm just not going to make excuses for any parent out there that sits there and does not at some point speak out. The search thing, too little, too late. I mean, whatever, right? She can do whatever she wants in her life, and we can judge her for whatever she's acting like. But two children missing, you would just think that at least to be vocal about, bringing awareness, right? Not using people to speak for her. Nobody wants to hear, again, no offense, but nobody wants to hear from the friends. They want to hear from the mother. And because of the Disappearing Act, and the whole weirdness of taking down Facebook and Daniel's pictures after your two children are missing, right? It's stuff like that that's just odd. Those aren't normal things that most people think to do when two children are missing. So whatever it is, right? So to me, it's like, suck it up, buttercup. Your actions are what you've portrayed to the entire world. So when people are judging you for the acts like of what a mother would do typically or be like, I mean, boo, boo, boo. So sorry. Not. Justice for Lily and Jack. Hi, Tiffany. I personally think Malaya sold Jack and Lily. It makes no sense. So chill without them. Huge red flag. You don't hear nothing from her side. Yeah, I'm not sure how many people are on the side of selling. I know that part came out, but again, right? Hopefully the answers to the truth will come out. And it would be nice if it was no one wants to keep waiting for answers. It really sucks. This whole case makes my skin crawl. I know we might not want to hear the answers, but at the end of the day, you just want to know what happened, because it's just horrible to think of what the outcome is potentially for Jack and Lily, for sure. Teal Warrior. Hi, Sunny and Mods. Just gonna keep scrolling here for a second. Nice, 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 nice. I'm empathic and I never can. I couldn't do true crime. I'm amazed I'm in true crime. I am. You know, I question myself about it all the time, but I'm obviously here for a reason. Obviously, if I truly did want to stop, I could, right? I have a very, but it's knowing that you are, regardless, bringing awareness, no matter how. I don't care how other channels feel about me that way. If they think I suck rocks or kick rocks or whatever, don't care. I know that still we're bringing awareness, and at least, and I liked the fact that this channel, we try to keep it very respectful and boot out the people that don't deserve to be here. Because again, it's not about numbers. It's about, right? It's about being caring and coming into a chat and just being able to talk. And then you guys can have your voices heard, even if they're different than mine. Do you think the case will go cold? I'm not there yet at all. I'm not there yet. We'll see. We'll see after this year goes by. We'll see. Follow the money. Yeah, I mean, typically, right? It's follow the money, follow the drugs, follow, I mean, obviously, again, it's not, I mean, actually, Cop Facts would be a great one. I mean, that guy is awesome, to be honest with you. No, there's a true crimer right there. And for all the time that he spent in the law enforcement and, cases and stuff like that, you know, it's always nice to have like, just like, when Alexa comes on. It's always nice to have the perspective of people that have actually spent time, covering cases or profilers and stuff like that, you know, um, than just say the like average person in a sense. And so it's always nice for that. But so for anyone that doesn't know Cop Facts, check him out on YouTube. I can pull up his YouTube link in a second. But anyways, just a great person in life. That's what you want. People that are caring and just good people. All I want to say is welcome back, Sunny. Thanks, Share Cares. Thanks for the 279 on there. Do. Didn't though share by the time YouTube gets at it, let's talk like 2.25. I was like, yeah, it will get me a coffee. Thank you. I'm teasing you, by the way, obviously. Um, Justice is coming. Where is Shan? I don't know. Like I said, so me and Shan, like, we only knew each other for a little blurb. When me and different people were in a group chat covering Jack and Lily's case, I didn't even know who she was up until Daphne's cold case files at all. I have not actually really like. I think months ago, I watched maybe a little bit of the lives. I, I don't like I watch lives here and there. Um, but lots of times I'm just would always do, like my own stuff because you're working, right? And stuff like that. But anyway, so I don't know. I couldn't even tell you what she has said about Malaya or anything like that. All I know, so I don't know, to be honest with you. Again, all I care about is that it doesn't matter who or what is as long as people are fighting for Jack and Lily, even if we people don't agree with this stream or their stream and stuff, as long as Jack and Lily are being talked about, that's and the awareness, that's what matters. Sunny, did Malaya not tell you in text 3 months after she left down that she heard the kids that morning? No. Um, so I do have Malaya's messages out. I don't know why I couldn't find it on my Canva. So I just literally went back to our conversations, but no. But that was the thing though, right? I had asked her about hearing the kids, right? Because there was no time that she had said about seeing the kids. The only time we heard that was when we saw those documents. At no point before that. So I just was wanting to clarify about hearing the kids because even on the scanner radio, right? Um, it was about hearing the kids between 8 o'clock to 8:30. And I'd have to go back to the scanner radio on that stuff, but it was about hearing them in the next room, right? Like from Malaya. Like the mother says that she heard them. Again, when she talks to Belinda, there's nothing about saying about seeing the kids. I mean, I remember when this case started, Belinda put up a text because she had gotten a message from Malaya basically about the children, missing and what. So Belinda had put up this, post right at the beginning. And again, it was not about seeing the kids, it was only about hearing. So the only time we saw that was in the documents. So I know that obviously when that was said, right, that was at whatever date it was that Malaya said that, but none of us knew that. So I had only asked the question, about being, so you heard the kids, had I known, I would have said, you know, seen. But then by the same token, I was not wanting to overwhelm Malaya. And I was kind of caught off guard because it was during a live when I was with Kent and Belinda. And so it wasn't like I was sitting there trying to, I mean, my mind was racing, but, you know, you're not trying to scare somebody away, because Malaya, besides maybe the people close to her, she wasn't really, talking to any of us so much, right? So you're not wanting to scare them away. But I mean, it didn't take too long for Malaya to sit there and say, okay, basically, you've asked enough questions. I think you're good. And I'm like, well, you keep saying that how much you want your children back. So, honesty and talking is the best policy, obviously. Um, and then when I tried it again the next day, to ask her, because Charmaine had some questions, then she said that she wouldn't be answering anymore. And I just couldn't wrap my brain around it, and it pissed me off, because I was like, what do you mean? Pretty much every other sentence, all you're saying is that you believe your kids are alive, that you just want them back, etc., etc. And so you're willing to answer some questions. But like I said, you're not trying to overwhelm that person at the time, because you don't want to shut them down, right? Just so, yeah. So it was just, I had only asked her about hearing for that reason. MBM accused Cody, boyfriend, in between Cody and DM. Melee doesn't talk. And third is the Black House. MBM has accused Cody's boyfriend in between Cody and DM. Second, MBM doesn't talk. And third, it's the Black House. Not sure what you're referring to for the Black House on that one. Just on that train, I'm just saying I think all three are guilty. All three. Well, the thing is, honestly, like I said, I'm not going to veer off my thoughts at this point unless something shows me different, right? Everything that I've personally witnessed and watched and read and the documents, inconsistent. And the bottom line, so besides the bottom line of stats that show that the disappearance of 2 children is profoundly rare and stuff like that, on top of that, it's the inconsistencies about it, and it's the actions, right? Malaya's actions are more than strange. Daniel stayed around, and then it became so many inconsistencies and stuff like that. And, I mean, the thing is that if you're telling the truth, things, certain things can be inputted, but the truth will remain the same, right? I mean, the truth, when you're telling the truth, there's no reason to really change things up, because that's the bottom line of it. So because we saw so many inconsistencies, and anytime Daniel does want to come up and clarify any inconsistencies that people still feel like, I mean, because there are some, I definitely could easily think of more, right? Whenever I think of the timeline, I think about the inconsistencies that have gone with that, unfortunately, it is really one-sided about who's speaking. And obviously Malaya's doing her talking, but not to the public that way. She's howling at the top of her lungs to Chance the other day on the phone. Yeah, well, all I know is, I mean, you're gonna put yourself like, she kind of a little bit reminds me of Darren that way, because at first they come out kind of talking, and then they go on these, like these vocal trains with their voices to people. And, so, if you're going to accuse people, of stuff and stuff like that, then, you get what you give, right? What you put out to the universe. If it comes back, then it comes back. I don't believe Anita knows that much info. MD is love stricken. You talk, if you like, I know, like, what I was confused about, I think, Pictou, is that Anita kept talking about hearing other voices, right? So I don't know at what point I was hearing these other voices, because it was almost like she was saying that Daniel was in the background. Um, you know, uh, Basically, I think saying something like, I did everything for the kids, but I was like, in what audio am I? Because all I'm hearing is Chance calling, like, and it didn't sound like Daniel to me, that person that's vocally speaking. That didn't sound like, even if I was to think of a voice changer, it still didn't. But now in saying that, could I ever put it past Daniel, that they're like, you know what, let's give that bitch a call. And so, could I ever put it past him to kind of like, join in on maybe what they deem as the fun of giving her just desserts back and, stuff like that. I mean, it just reminds me of, I don't know, like this war of the words and stuff like that at each other. And like, if you're going to say this shit about me, then I'm going to call you this and say this shit about you. And, but I mean, could I see someone like, could I see like these guys doing stuff like that, private numbering and shit like that, blowing up her phone? Yeah. You know, I could see that. Come on now, M could do nothing wrong. LMBO. Laughing my butt off. Uh, Hi, Rogue. How are you? RCMP caught druggies in Pictou. Well, it's not a shocker, is it? Black House. Pizza Party House. You talking about the one on Gairloch Road there? That house? You have to remember that I've been 2.5 months pretty much, well, just under, not overly paying attention to a lot of this stuff. Okay, yeah, I did not hear Daniel at all. 1 second here. I agree. I've watched MD's lives, trying to listen to see if Anita had anything good that she can provide for the case. Then I sit back and go, what the fuck was that? Pretty much my opinion yesterday. I'm just like, okay. Like, there was the things that she was saying about that Cindy didn't miss a day of work, that Malaya was on the phone. And this is all in the week of when the children disappeared, that Anita's saying that, when she was talking to Malaya and Cindy and Wade type of thing. So basically she's saying that Malaya was on the phone worrying about, it's like talking about the children's tax and stuff like that. And I'm thinking in my head is these few things that make sense, because one of the biggest things is that Malaya had her child tax credit because like of the taxes, right? So I'm thinking like, okay, that would make sense if your children weren't missing, but your children are missing and you're worrying about your tax credits for your children that are missing right now, And then she also made the comment that Cindy traded in her vehicle, and then she kind of like gave the whole story about that. And so, I mean, it is coming from, someone that I have no clue about whatsoever, but it was, does it sound reasonable? Well, I think the reasonableness of this kind of comes from the actions that we've saw of or seen from Malaya taking off, not seeing her, the weirdness of it all. So do things like that make sense? When she's talking about them. So I think that part, when you're listening to it, it definitely raises an eyebrow, because I mean, if that is accurate, you're like, well, then what the fuck do you guys know? Because those aren't actions of regular people that have 2 children missing from a grandmother, meaning Cindy and Malaya, right? Those aren't actions that one would think that you would go be trading in a vehicle on the Tuesday, and then she mentioned about, Cheryl coming over and going out with Cheryl, and, so she mentioned a few things, but, are they true? Are they not? But why? I just can't see why someone would make that stuff up. I can understand it getting more into drama, with Chance and like all that stuff, but so that stuff seems like wild and crazy shit. And I'm just not into that crap. I'm just into listening with my ears to what Daniel has said, Malaya has said, Haley has said, things even that Cheryl has said, right? Family members, Logan, right? Earl, Janie, obviously too. So that all I'm doing is just, like I said, people want to talk and open up and say things and stuff like that, but the thing is this is that no matter what, unless to me a hunter, somebody fesses up, um, you know, somebody gives that vital information, that vital information for Jack and Lily, it's just going to be a guessing game, um, of speculation, because the answer will have to come from RCMP or anyone that has the vital information. Um, or, you know what I mean? Or they find some sort of evidence, you know, to lead at least, the RCMP to where either Jack and Lily are, or to evidence that prove that, um, I mean, they could easily have evidence that proves or knows that they're lying, but they have to have a good amount. If especially if you don't have bodies, but yet you know and you can prove it. I think that's where I still think that that's where they lack the RCMP, right? They need literally somebody to fess up to say, whether that's family involvement, family member, to fess up to what happened to Jack and Lily, right? To give that vital information. Because at the end of the day, it has, right? You got a kick at the bucket, to prosecute, anyone to be criminally charged, and that's it. So they're not going to sit there and go half-assed. It's going to be full throttle when it does happen, right? And like I said, the next major time, besides up some useless updates. Well, I don't want to call them too useless, but you know what I'm saying. It's like when you're getting the same textbook answers out of them, you know, it's just like that stuff bores me because I know that they have to say that stuff, that they're just saying like a recording. It's like listening to someone stand there and you know exactly what's going to come out of their mouth, and it's nothing that's in a sense meaningful to us because they're just not going to give us any information like that. So the next time, to me, the bit usually with cases, it's like, silence. And the next thing you know, at some point, poof, somebody's been arrested, right? And all shit breaks loose, So these updates and stuff, or these press conferences, great for bringing attention to Jack and Lily. But if we're expecting anything really out of it, no. The next big thing we'll actually see, like it. So I wanted to even talk about that for a second as well, because this is very similar to Sebastian Rogers' case, in the sense of after a week, there's no sign of Sebastian Rogers. They've used all the resources. They came back and did another search and stuff like that. The only time that they'll truly do a search for Jack and Lily again is if information leads them there, for a search. But other than that, it's not like they're going to be like, yeah, okay, you know what, let's just plan for another search today. It's not going to happen. It's only going to be if there's information that could show that they could find something to do with Jack and Lily's disappearance. And so, and Sebastian Rogers, the same way. And it sucks because for Sebastian Rogers, it's been over 2 years. February 25th, 26th, because he was supposedly last seen by his mother on February 26th, but the actual last known date was February 25th. And so it's sad. It's sad to know. It's sad in the unknown brain how long when we don't have a time. And then you think to yourself, okay, is this case going to get solved soon? Is it going to go cold? How long? Is it going to be 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? Don't know. I'm kind of sorry, you guys. I'm going to bypass the messages here. I see this one though. Charmaine has done a lot on behalf of Jack and Lily, and she does not like drama on her channel. She absolutely cares about Jack and Lily. Yeah, I mean, me and Charmaine are good friends for a reason, and it's because we're very similar, in a lot of ways. Like, we might not always think the same on stuff, but we closely mostly do, right? How we kind of think of things, our morals, and ethics, and we both will beak off when we want to, and but it's not about a money motivator. It's always about sincerity. And, that's why me and Charmaine get along so well. And she wanted to start doing things for herself on her own channel. And like I said, Charmaine was in podcasting, not on YouTube and stuff like that. And when she did want to break off and do her own thing, I was absolutely, and I would expect stuff like that to happen. But it's nice to have another channel covering it and from somebody that I totally respect. Same with Melissa, you know, um, two good friends of mine. I just like the sincerity and the no bullshit. And you're just trying to be just honest and sincere in your coverage of the case and trying to bring you what you can, but not take people's bullshit by the same token, right? I've seen enough of these cases to know that RCMP may have a solid idea of what truly happened, but they will not go forward until they have enough proofs. Absolutely. I'll come back. Okay, so we want truth for Jack and Lily. Yeah, and I appreciate all you guys. Like, appreciate myself, because if there weren't for caring people in this world, imagine this world if nobody gave a shit. So thank you guys for giving a shit and coming to follow Jack and Lily's case, because obviously, even though there's some jerk offs, in true crime for sure. And there's some of them, but honestly, the good people totally outweigh the bad people. People get so hung up on they don't like what you said or this person and this channel and blah 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 but beneath it all, even if you're a dickhead, you know, um, in your twisted way of being a dickhead, you're still caring about Jack and Lily's case type of idea. Everyone just wants the answers. Yes, the guaranteed charges and an arrest. Dodie says no MD got some to send Sunny's live to his channel. No MD got someone to send Sunny's live to his channel, and he was analyzing Daniel. Oh, I'm not sure which channel you mean. Okay, sorry, I gotta scroll. Hi, C Legal, how are you? Did you see the recent dispersing the fog with? Ooh, when's the most recent one? Yeah, I know which channel you're talking about. I learned that RCMP is resisting others to step in and review the case. I'd have to go back and look because it would have been a couple months ago for C Legal for that one. So yeah, there's a channel called Dispersing the Fog with Paul Palango. So yeah, I'll just have to go see if there was one since then. I know there was one, like I said, not that long ago. Thanks, Teal. You rock. You rock back. Envision if you wanted to be child free, partying and dating, this is how you'd act. MBM. I concur. It's a definite twisted way. Yes, if you say anything negative about or against what Anita says, MD will remove you. Well, he can go kick rocks. Well, yeah, because I mean, it's. I think in a sense, I mean, besides his personality is something to be desired, and he's full of himself. I think it's kind of no different a little bit though that I don't take anyone disrespecting Belinda in this channel. That I will not do. So I get it, if someone's belittling others. So I get why if someone's dissing, because at the moment that's his, for him that's his, person that's speaking out, and it's almost like a weirdity there going on. But hey, you know what? If they're having their, live and drama and want to float their own boats and, think so highly of themselves and, or whatever, take a bunch of flack and make it look like a circus at times and stuff. Anyways, I just take it all with the grain of salt that I see it in and stuff like that. So, people say that Shanann does the same thing. If anyone says anything bad against Malaya, I mean, the thing is that it's not like I don't get it, but I get it because there's not one person that I'm going to put up with, that's going to sit there and shoot Belinda down. Not going to happen. Not on my dime. So it's just one of those things. It's like basically I'm a looky loom for the most part anyway. If I sometimes I'll speak out, like I was in Ninchi's live a little bit yesterday, catching it and stuff like that. And I said, "Hey, Ninchi, I hadn't caught one of her lives before. Didn't overly talk, said a few things, uh, and that was really about it, right? I mean, I do like watching or listening to Ninchi when I can because I think that she reminds me of Alexa, like a profiler, has obviously um credentials or whatever schooling or different things behind her. And she has a brain on her shoulders, and it doesn't mean that everything she's saying is correct, but she does very good analysis, like meaning I'd rather listen to her any day than the other person, okay? Even though there's things that he said that, yeah, okay, but I mean, I'd rather listen to someone that's actually normal and decent, as they're talking, regardless of the point of view and stuff like that. At least someone that actually has a logical brain. Supposed to rain. Shh, Dawn, don't tell me that. Shush. Don't tell me. So you're meaning I'm gonna have to do lives this weekend or something because it's gonna be raining outside most of it. I'm a new subscriber from Clutch Them Pearls. Hi, Brenda Walsh. Hi, everyone. Yeah, Justin. I caught a little bit of his live yesterday, and I mean, it was like watching myself, right? Because he was going over the interview with Daniel there. But I just like I said, there's some good creators out there, and then there's other ones that whatever don't interest me. I just look for the true connect or the case. If you're doing things for a genuine purpose, and you're passionate about what you're doing, and that you can see that, and it's not like a clickbait or money grab thing, right? If people are decent people and like to come to watch your channel, they'll donate or support you and stuff like that anyways, right? I don't think people need to ride a gravy chain. Well, some do, but I don't have respect for the people that make it their calling. It's just my opinion, but that put the money in front of a case, it's just not my thing, you know. Um, but there's always people out there that want to support regardless. So appreciate that. I support other channels, sometimes drop the super chats myself and stuff like that. Thanks all. I'm Ontario, Canada. Welcome, welcome. I'm from Vancouver side. Okay, so okay, I know I keep saying, what are your thoughts? What was that, Ducky? Not sure. Not sure what that one was referring to. Whoops. What the heck did I do? Whoops, I don't know what I did there. Clicked on something. I think Justin's live now, to be honest with you. Okay. You guys, I'm gonna oh hey Kent, how are you? And there, hey Sharon. Big hugs, you guys. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Just Ducky. Okay. Um, I'm mid for another channel searching for Nancy Guthrie. I should go back there, but I want to show my support. Yeah, Nancy Guthrie's case, I know it well. Have been following it, done a few lives on it and stuff like that. Um, Another very strange case. Weird, weird. Anyways, thank you for being here or leaving, whichever. Hi, beautiful Rhonda. Praying for Jack and Lily. Hi, Christina, Alaska. Shenanigans said Anita did not arrive until 3 weeks after the kids disappeared. Yeah. Anita spoke. She was talking about the whole freaking uh, week of it. So who knows where the truth all lies? You know, that's the whole bullshit part of Jack and Lily's case is that you just don't know. You know, it's like too many people just not talking, inconsistencies, weirdness. It's just, and then it just, ball rolls into like, a freaking huge, um, just web of lies and not, you don't, when people are talking and telling the truth, you don't really know because you can't really trust anyone, it seems like, right? Um, okay. I'm not sure how far I'm missing here. Oh, I did see a love you, Sunny. That was from Badette's. Love you back. Okay. Um, I'm gonna be back in a second, but I am gonna share screen and and I'll bring this up. So just give me a second. Um, I'll take this off the screen and then we'll come back to this. Okay. So just give me a sec, guys. Yeah, when I do a live, I actually don't even look to see who's live or not live or this and that. But hey, if they're talking about Jack and Lily, right? Obviously, then that's a good thing. Okay, so back obviously Malaya had said some things, right? Um when she says I'm just tired of the bullshit, I'm tired of the lies. She's kind of talking about, well, I mean, that's kind of when the drama was coming along with the event or whatever it was, the I don't know, bracelets, the whole Alana thing back in the day and stuff like that, and about the money and where it was going, blah 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 blah. And obviously, probably, I don't know, but that was kind of referencing that mostly. But I'm sure she was considering what people are saying, a bunch of bullshit and lies too. Um, and then she had said that Daniel is only lying to the media, and I don't know why. He's not lying to the police or CPS. Both of our statements to the police are the same, but the media has a completely different story blaming me. Right. So this is really about the whole disappearance and stuff like that to do with, Daniel and then, Darren there talking about, some sort of Malaya's friends and a truck pulled up and that Malaya had something to do with it and Cindy had something to do with it. And, but then, of course, meaning obviously in the documents, they're basically telling the story of what happened. And then all of a sudden, the whole story turns into Malaya, Cindy had something to do with it. Then it became the friends and stuff like that, right? So that's kind of referring to that. And then she says, I'm hurt in a way no one can understand. I want my children back home to me. Well, I mean, she did repeat that uh, a lot. And so wherever the truth lies, Malaya, wherever the truth lies, according to what I've heard, he apparently likes the attention that is disgusting. And she's obviously referring to Daniel on that. And let's see. So I think I had said he loves attention. Sorry to me, but he's a narcissist. His shit don't fly with me. But I think I said something above that. You believe your children are alive, correct? Is that because your psychic friend said, or because you feel that they are. Um, and she says, no, because I want them to be. How could a mother think anything else? Right? His true colors have unfortunately come out in the worst way. It's like I never knew who he really was a comment. No, I can't see. Okay, so I said, asked about Jack and Lily. Is it possible? Let's see. Anyway, she said, no, I can't see Daniel hurting children. Um, okay. And she said, Daniel, Janie, Darren's timelines don't match up in media, but that is not what is being said to police. That is why their lies are okay. You can't get in trouble for lying to the media. Maybe not, but I mean, obviously, if you're lying, it's not like they're going to shy away from what's being said, meaning the RCMP, right? Um, this is where she says, I'm so grateful and appreciative for the support and love for Jack and Lily. I can't express that enough. My children are my everything. That's all I want is for my children to be found. I said I would love to put the true timeline, no BS, just a true timeline for Jack and Lily. And then she said, good question. I don't know. That is what the police want to find out. Well, I mean, thing is that timeline would come from the people on the property, obviously, right? I mean, when if things were being truthful, obviously, we if everything was being said truthfully, we would obviously have perhaps this gap where something could have happened. But obviously, what he like when she said that, good question, I don't know. Well, however she meant that or saw that question in her head was, to me, it's like, okay, well, tell the timeline, from basically the day before up until the time that the children went missing. That's what a timeline is. So that's what the police want to know. But if people aren't telling the truth, well, then obviously, they're going to have to dig for the truth. And then, so this is where she says, I said, you were positive you heard them from 8 to 8:30 as you told Belinda. Is that true? Which was also on the scanner radio. And she says, I heard the kids in the morning. Yes. See, that's like, there's no point there where she says, well, I saw Lily, right? Like I said, was never mentioned up until the documents. So I don't know if the document one was a lie. And that her never mentioning it was always her way of just saying hearing. That's all we heard was the word heard the kids. That's it. So that makes me not necessarily believe the truth when she says that she saw them at 8:20, right? So it seems more likely by her constantly saying heard and not saw, at least, to clarify. But anyway, so she just simply answers, I heard the kids in the morning. Yes. Daniel was sleeping beside me the entire time from 6:18 to around 9:40. And this is where the 9:40 came from. That people thought that Malaya had called the police at that time originally, as myself. But then when you went back to Belinda's messages, it was the time basically that's when they realized, and 10:01 obviously became the time of the phone call. But she does say that here, because obviously at this point I was shown the phone call of when it was by Alana, who was sent it from, obviously Malaya, would be like given to Cheryl, because I no longer heard them in the bedroom, right? See, when I woke him up, because I no longer heard them in the bedroom. So at no point here, when she even makes that statement, when I woke him up because I no longer heard them in the bedroom. Right. So again, at no point is it in this sentence anything about seeing Lily, seeing Jack or anything. But more important one out of this is about seeing Lily. So it makes me believe that the 820 is not truthful. Would be just my own personal thoughts. That is the best estimate I can give at the moment because I was in and out of sleep, dozing off that morning. I then called the police at 10:01. And by the way, I'll come look in a second because I can't see chat. The bedroom next to us, I wasn't aware. They see their bedroom next to us, right? Meaning that that's where she heard them. I wasn't aware they went outside, as Janie said. Um, hmm. In the morning, Lily and Jack got out a couple of times, but I would always get a call from Janie saying that the kids were outside. I would bring them back in and get breakfast. For some reason that morning, I never got a call that the kids were outside. I don't know why. She was the last one to hear them. Mhm. And then she starts talking about I have an app called School Messenger with a password Daniel doesn't know, and that is how you mark the children absent through the app. I mark them absent at 6 to 8. Now Daniel has shown on his from his phone, so obviously they must get an alert to each of their emails from it. So although he might say not know the password, he still gets an email. And then she deleted because it had her email address there. I did end up capturing it before she deleted, but it was one of those things. I'm not going to sit there and go here's Malaya's email address. So anyway, so she retracted, deleted, and then showed the time 6:17, 6:18, and then Daniel has shown his as well. All I want for my children is to be back home. I just need them found safe and sound, right? I want the awareness to continue. See see that right there. It's like, how can you sit there and say something like that when you're not bringing the awareness yourself? Um, I want the bullshit speculations to stop. It's ruining the investigations and blowing up the tip line. With unnecessary bullshit that investigators have to follow every tip, no matter how ridiculous they are. Well, I will not apologize for being silent for so long. I've been through a lot and I'm still going through more than anyone could imagine. I don't really care what people are saying, to be honest. I only care about getting the children back home. To me, that's just a contradictory in words. I don't know why he lied, but my family never knew the blanket. And that's when he's blaming Cheryl, right? Daniel's blaming Cheryl and that, Haley, and that of having something to do with the blanket. Nor did they know Lily's blanket existed, especially my friends. Daniel gave me an ultimatum when I was pregnant with Meadow to drop my friends or he would leave me because he said they were a bad influence. So I did. He allowed me to talk to one friend, but we didn't talk often. Yes, I want my babies found as soon as possible. I want them home. I need them. I'm desperate. Again, you know, I mean, the actions are lacking those words. Um, okay, this is just basically about timeline. And she said, about me asking if I could show it, like show the conversation. And yes, I don't see why she is being this way now. Um, she's talking about Belinda there. And and then she is upset because of this fundraiser. She wanted to know if you were really talking to Lana. And then she says that was very sweet of her to say. I just don't appreciate the disrespect. She felt like Belinda was disrespecting her, Malaya. And then she says, I was a bit, but Cheryl was mostly talking to her, meaning Lana. It seems there are a lot of scammers out there, right? Okay, so that's going back to that whole event. So I've been told Alana hustles and that she burns bridges. So that's unfortunate. Okay, I honestly don't care about that stuff. I will consider when I'm ready. Um, I only hope she's doing the same for me as and is holding hope for that Jack and Lily are coming home. I've never given up on my babies and never will. CPS took her without a valid reason. I did not flee. I was only looking for help from the reserve because they no longer wanted me to stay at my mother's anymore. However, my mom works shift work and can't watch Meadow without me, and I'm her primary caregiver and always have been. Wade was with me, so I wasn't alone. They revoked him being on the list for some reason, so it looked like I wasn't being supervised. I don't know why. Daniel is allowed to see his daughter. I never had a problem with that. He came up with that on his own. Did you get to see her at least, Malaya? Yes. Yes, all of my children are beautiful. I love them more than anything. Then she said, thank you for listening and helping to bring my babies home. Um, this, she felt betrayed. Um, oh, that was me asking about her mom. Must be super pissed at Wade for doing all that talking. And then she said she felt betrayed. And then she said, no, I only felt bad for my mother. My main focus is my kids. Meaning she didn't feel bad for Wade. She felt bad for her mother. Um, Best I can do is send you my Google timeline. But as for Thursday, it was like any other day. Evening. Shit, that sounds like Daniel right there. But as for Thursday, it was like any other day, an evening and night. And, again, in all fairness, we don't know the truth, right? We're just trying to take what we're getting, and it's been very odd and strange and inconsistent. We had supper, then got the kids to bed. So she's saying here, though, that we had supper and then got the kids to bed. They normally get tucked in around 7 to 8. Now, obviously, you guys remember that kind of veered to 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the documents. But in this case, Daniel said he was outside. I believe he didn't remember what the kids had, but he was outside till it was dark, and stuff like that. So, whereas Malay is saying we had supper, then got the kids into bed, referring to both of them. And then she says, if you have a Google account, then you can get a Google timeline that tracks everywhere. And then like I said, she did. So this one here, when they arrived home back at 4, that's why I told Daniel, it says arrived at 3:11, because that's what the tracking on Google timeline showed. Right now, I mean, he said close to 4. So she said, I had blood work that day. That is why we went out, And then, so touching on that, basically, that's supposed to be about some sort of venereal disease that Daniel gave Malaya, and that she had to get blood work done. Something about from his cheating or something like that, right? I heard that said multiple times, from within the family and stuff. So I had asked questions here. So the question was, if you don't, Darren said he heard a big argument on Thursday that continued until you got home, and that you got into a physical altercation. Any of this true? So our answer to that was no. Second question was, Haley on a live stream said, Susan, Daniel was in the bathroom doing drugs, and you told her Daniel's been doing meth for 2 years. And then, okay, that was just me. to my niece. She said, yes, Daniel is narcissistic and is very controlling, unfortunately. No, Belinda did not control me, but she read that question wrong. I wasn't talking about Belinda. Um, but she was upset that Belinda didn't tell her like that Cody was cheating on her with multiple women. Um, and then as far as she led on, she never had a problem with them. She did treat them a bit different than her grad. This is about Janie. Obviously, Janie, did she like the children? She comes across like they were a thorn in her ass. She said she had zero pictures. She said you barely spoke to her. Was her words a bunch of BS? She says as far as she led on, she never had a problem with them. She did treat them a bit different than her grandchildren. I was baffled when she said she found them annoying. Yes, her words are BS. I would speak to her and give sympathy when she would come over and talk about her medical issues and the Timu orders she would receive. I was not a mean person. They both, both Daniel and Malaya, both use that terminology. I was not a mean person. And you know what? Like I said, we don't know the truth. People go through a lot of shit in their life and stuff like that for sure. Does that make everyone a bad person? No. But if they did something to the children, then yeah, right? Obviously. She was worried about her dog would bite someone, and that's when I asked about why, she was hesitant to let them in, basically. And then she said, I hope this clarifies things. Also, as for the sweaters, Logan was right. But so I wanted to bring this up as well because we're talking about the laundry a bit. And so I remember Malaya saying this last night. I remember her making this comment. Also, for the sweaters, Logan was right beside me when I packed the few things I did in a Puma duffel bag. I did not take any of his items. I mostly grabbed Meadows' clothes and a couple of my own. And I do recall that being said. Yes, Daniel was very controlling, even to the point of what I wore. Yes and no, he would pick up Jack mostly and sometimes Lily. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Well, hey Hunter, I just popped. I'm behind on a different screen, so I couldn't see chat. If she can't see Daniel hurting the kids, what about his local family members? Was it ever confirmed if Daniel's brother was? Yeah, it was gonna. I mean, for the most part, it's. I think that one's kind of like beating a dead horse with that one, Hunter. That question, in the sense of that has been talked about. There's been no confirmation at all, but people confirming that he wasn't there. Now, granted, it's been by the family members, but honestly, I don't honestly believe that Justin was like, meaning he wasn't staying the night and stuff like that. So, meaning they've talked about it. I just don't think that, like, the answer people are seeking from that, unless it comes from Malaya or somebody else from a different side, perhaps. But I mean, it has been answered multiple times that no, he wasn't on the property that day or living on it, either or as well. Anyways, nice to see you there, True Crime. And so I'm just going to go back to this for a second. So yes. Okay. So, um, did he put his hands on you? Yes. And no, he would. So she's answering to that. Yes. And then she's saying, and no, he would pick on Jack mostly and sometimes Lily. Now, I mean, obviously she didn't get any deeper than that. Um, so it's really how you guys determine those words. He would hold me down and take away my phone so I couldn't call my mother when I wanted to leave. This happened often. So obviously the relationship was very unstable. Um, for sure, you can tell. Um, he only shoved me into a wall once and then realized what he did and apologized. You know, we're going to come back to something about that in a second. Daniel convinced me to stay. Daniel convinced me to stay, that things would work out. He always said that. Well, I mean, I've been in that type of relationship, so I get that. Um, I'm not trying to point fingers. I'm just giving you a short summary of what I went through. I feel, and this is where she said, I feel you have more than enough. I really want people to start focusing on helping find my babies. Well, that was the point of it. Asking questions so you can, kind of verify between the two of them, about a timeline, right? But anyways, I really want people to start focusing on helping find my babies. Well, like obviously that's like the pot calling the kettle black on that one. My babies are out there. I need them home. Yes, they called him dad. Thank you so much. I apologize, but I won't be answering any more questions. Um, these are I think this is the videos from Charmaine between her and Daniel, but in video format. Charmaine wanted you to have those, right? Daniel's convo and hers. But anyways, uh, one second here. Welcome back. I just want to quickly do this. Cheryl, thank you for becoming a member. Show up, Mima. Thank you for becoming a member. Native Girl, 7 months being a member. And Share Cares, $2.79. All I want is welcome. Oh, all I want to say is welcome back, Sunny. And thank you for that. Okay. Go back here. Set. Or was I like that? Yeah, I think so. Let's put back up Jack. So sometimes like said, like it's like even when Daniel was talking, like sometimes you just forget some of the shit because it's been over a year, you know, and sometimes it's good to have recall on some of these things. I'm back. I can chat again. I was listening, but I was picking stuff up and coming up to my room and then opening. Oh, welcome back. Let me just take a look here. All this shows me is how reliant she truly was on Janie making sure she had MBM aware that her children were outside or what they were doing instead of getting up and watching her own children. I mean, I don't disagree. Just Ducky. What did Just Ducky say though? Just Ducky, right? Okay, hold on. I sometimes think Malaya snapped, and she could. You know what? I mean, that's a possibility in itself. You know, but again, you have to look at it. Why would Daniel protect Malaya when you know cheap shots are kind of going, about it, and then certainly, with the charges now. I want to talk about that part just for a moment. Um, you know, we had already known about the Malaya saying this before the news and the documents had come out because Malaya had already said this about getting pushed against a wall and being held down, and this would happen a few times. Daniel made the comment, of course, because he loved her or loves her, because at this point, I don't know, right? Like, honestly, like, you'd think one would crack at this point, to be honest with you, about it all. You would think, like, meaning if it was, say, just Malaya by herself and she did something, and Daniel was trying to help protect her and stuff like that. But there becomes a point where things kind of get ugly between people, and I'm just saying the typical. Thanks, Carla. But what I want to say is this: is that so Daniel said, and I already knew this already, but I mean, I was at first when they were talking about the charges, I was like, well, I mean, is it coming from RCMP or is it coming from Malaya? Right now, Daniel made a comment that said it's the Crown that's continuing to prosecute, and that it wasn't from, obviously, Malaya, and or I guess whatever whatever, it doesn't matter. But anyways, every freaking buddy knows who it is. But anyways, but my thing is this on the charges, right? Is that those are some pretty heavy charges, really. And I feel like that if Anita's correct, perhaps when she said she was talking to Malaya and asked her why did she delete her text plus, and Malaya said because there's messages on there, to my grandma and my mom that I basically she didn't want them to see, right? Obviously, then all they need to do is get us, a warrant, the search warrant for that, and see all the messages that they want. I feel like in those messages was Malaya possibly saying a lot of, things about her relationship, Daniel, stuff like that. So I feel that, and this is just my own gut feeling on this all. I feel that they derived from a lot of these messages about the situation that was going on in the relationship, um, and enough so to use these messages and whatever else to press these charges. So even if Malaya didn't want to, I feel like from the information, the intel, as you want to put it, that they got off the phones was enough to prove, um, or at least to bring it charges against Daniel. And that's just my own speculation, but they're not going to bring something weak against Daniel. They're not like if it was just half-ass shit, they're not gonna. So I feel like they must have some strong messages to actually bring those charges about. Now, whatever happens remains to be seen with that part of the case and stuff like that. Again, is it uncommon for cases if they have if they do suspect anyone, Daniel or Malaya or whatever, and they do suspect something, or would they bring extra charges or charges to do it kind of like a way that they can, a backdoor way in a sense, to hold somebody accountable so they press these charges? Absolutely. Um, Again, Brian Walsh was one of those clear cases where he was charged for, the fraud and stuff like that. Um, and then, keep them in the jail system, and keep them so that they're in charge, right? Of really what he can do, have limits set to what he can do or can't do during that time as well, when you have the charges. But anyways, so a lot of people think that the charges are being brought up as kind of like, well, you know what, we know what happened type of thing, that they have the answers, but they can't prove it. So if we can't get someone this way, let's get them the other way and stuff like that, right? So again, is that unheard of? No. I mean, again, all you have to do is type in the case and probability into the AI, and it will tell you that please do that. It's a very common thing. It just, obviously, if you're looking at the bigger part of the case type of thing. So could that be absolutely part of what they're doing? Absolutely. Could it absolutely not? Absolutely. Right. But again, as for that part of it, I just wanted to touch on that because, if RCMP are bringing the charges or the prosecutor is going to prosecute, because they feel like they have enough charges. A prosecutor is not going to prosecute if their case is weak. If they don't have enough, they won't prosecute, right? And that's why cases, right, just like Jack and Lily, if there's not enough evidence there to prosecute, right, the prosecutors won't, right, at all, because they're not there to waste their time. So you have to have, good evidence to prove stuff, and the same will hold true for Jack and Lily's case, right? Depending on what your thoughts are on the case. Is it true that Belinda said she was abusive to Cody? Or was that Daniel? That was Daniel. I've never heard Belinda say that Malaya was abusive. No, that Daniel says that because there's screenshots of that. Now, I agree with you. Welcome back, Mischief. Been watching you from the beginning, Jack and Lily. Thank you so much. Hi, Darlene. My heart just breaks for these two innocent babies. What are we at? 1 hour and 37 minutes? Okay. I just want to see the truth and justice for all. Um, uh, Give me a second here. I'm going to go into my Canva. And I just want to, I'm just going to kind of pick up some things and again, take us back in time to some of the information. And again, Daniel said stuff on the live the other day, obviously, but I'm just going to pop up some of the comments. So just give me a second. Okay, guys. Okay. So I'm just going to randomly pull up stuff. No particular order. Okay. Daniel would protect Malaya because he is in love with her in the beginning, and she didn't want to file charges against him. And well, I mean, like I said, Darren came out spewing about the reason why Daniel lied is to protect Malaya. Yada 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 yada. Right? There's a lot of shit that's been said. Where the truth lies with it all remains to be seen. It was a good lie. Well, I'm glad you guys appreciated it. Again, wasn't prepared like for Daniel to necessarily come up and say, "Hey, Sonny, I'll come up," and he did, and it ended up being a long ass live, and but again, it's not like I sat there and was like, "Let me think of the timeline, let me think of all these inconsistencies," because it has been a year, and in that time, you do forget certain things and other things you don't. Like when someone mentioned about the 8 o'clock time, that was said, that the children were last heard between 8 o'clock to 8:30, right? That's when they were last heard. So again, regardless, all of them are claiming hearing the children. Now, Daniel claims to have seen Lily a couple times and hearing Jack in the kitchen. Malaya never said anything about seeing the children, only hearing the children, and same in the audio. So again, the inconsistent on that one. But Janie claims that she heard them, and that would have had to have been after 9 o'clock, right? I'm pretty sure Belinda did say that she saw Malaya aggressive at one point with Cody. It was when she was drinking and on meds. Maybe she did. I'd have to ask her again, just Ducky. It doesn't strike a memory, but it could have been on the day. Maybe she was talking about, her son and stuff like that, or I don't know. Maybe she did. I'd have to ask her again. Okay. Oh, 1 second, you guys. I have a cat meowing in here. Let me go let out the cat. 1 sec. Okay, so let me just. I have. Wait, no, I have this open. Is it this one or this one? Nope, it's this one. I think it's this one that I have open. If I click on this, what does this one say? Nope, obviously not. Um, let's see here. Hmm. I guess it opens up in another window. So, one sec. Share screen. Window. Um, well, okay. I think this is with Hidden in the Fog, I believe. And one second. I will make the screen bigger so you guys can see that. So this is when obviously Daniel said his name was Luke. And he was with the dog name. What was the dog's name again? I always knew it and now I forget it. Um you guys remember what the dog's name was? That was with that constable. Okay, so let's just see here. Got too much shit open is what I got. Okay, so this one says they asked me to if I burnt anything since May 2nd in the stove because they seen ashes. I said, well, it was summer for the last few months. Why heat with wood in the summer and then a fire ban? Same handler said all these things, all these weird things. He also said human remains dogs can smell remains in ashes. I said, why are the dogs not inside here then instead of asking what a wood stove is? They did bring the dogs in the house. They did all the property too. The dog handlers came inside and asked me, okay, so he uh, asked me what this thing was. I replied that it was a wood stove. Never, what, you never seen one before? And then it says, yeah, Susan, which is from Hidden in the Fog. One of the handlers tried to get a false confession out of me, and by trying to get me to admitting to the murder of the kids. Investigators were privately talking with mom, so it was only me and the dog handlers when they tried to pull that stunt on me. He put his hand on my shoulder and said, Daniel, 2 children just don't go missing. I replied, yes, sir, I'm well aware of that. He then said something happened Thursday night. I said, no, it didn't. What are you referring to? He said, we think you did something Thursday night. That's when I said, do you even know anything on this case? He know anything on the case? He replied, no, not really. I seen you on the news once in BC. The conversation went a little something like that. Maybe not, but word for word. It was heartbreaking and sickening, Susan, to hear that. I was told investigators after this. I told investigators after this, and they told me, Daniel, I'm sorry about that. We know what we know, and I'm sorry that happened to you. I don't remember the guy's name. Oh, yes, Narc. I was going to say Narc, but I didn't think that that was right. Okay, what else do we got here? Yes, the handler thought so. It saddened me to have someone think such cruel shit. Then he says the blanket site was searched multiple times. The pipeline where the footprint was found multiple times. The dogs also did the property here multiple times days. Janie had said if the RCMP, if the RCMP, though, there was a need to bring in cadaver dogs or thought, she went to say thought there, they would have already done so. Daniel has already asked. He even asked when he did his interview, do you people listen? It's a missing case. not a criminal case. If the RCMP want to bring in the dogs, tell them to. I got nothing to hide, is what she meant to say. He'll bring as many, basically, hell, bring as many as you like. That picture I don't need because it's has, oh, well, I mean, so this became some sort of plasma lighter, but those were the keys, again, that we've talked about. And then someone had sent me this from Cindy Murray. I am very lost right now, but I have to stay positive and let the police do their job and not be part of all the nonsense drama out there in the media. My focus is to keep a positive focus on my grandbabies, and that's all I'm going to say. Thank you for reaching out. Cindy Murray, you're welcome. Like the drawings, they are very nice. Thank you. I hope it gets resolved very soon. As well, I'm heartbroken. Just because I do not like media attention does not mean I'm not brokenhearted. And I pray every day they will be found safe and sound. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. For that. Hi, Shirley. Thank you very much. I appreciate the kind words. Oh, a lot of people have had a hard time spelling Malaya's name. Even I have to think about it sometimes still on there. Okay, so I'm going to take that one down. And did another, and then we'll pop this one up here. Share screen. This is just I'm just kind of popping up them. There's no particular order. This is where Daniel said, I have everything the kids own and all of Malaya's belongings as well. And then another message. Oh, hold on. I'm not being negative towards Malaya. I love her, but I never lie because that's just not me. I say the truth, even if it hurts. I'm sorry to say that, but I live in reality, and reality is what it is. So this is where Daniel said that the fence was done on May 2nd. But again, regardless if his memory is faulty, it definitely was not done on May 2nd because we have the aerial views from the drones or helicopters to show that the fence was not done. Dogs were in because of public outcry, Daniel had said, when they brought the dogs in. And then he said, no, this is where he said, no violence ever. Malaya used to hit me. Okay, so that was, I guess, another one that I had. Let's see what else. What else do I got? Okay, I'm gonna close this one off because oh no, shoot, I didn't mean to close that, but whatever. What else do we got here? I'm not going to pop this one up. I'll just read it because there's only one on it. And this is when he said that Malaya doesn't have the mental foresight to understand the complex nature of what she was about to do. 2 missing kids at the same time, 1 in a million. That's when he's talking about, obviously, about Malaya having something to do with the disappearance. Now he's saying he doesn't know what to think. So like I said, I'm not going to pop that one up because it's just got that one piece on there. What's this one? I mean, I'm just kind of just showing past and stuff, you know. Things can change and do change definitely as time goes on. This was in that private group. I'm sure by now RCMP are all over this video. That was the plan, but he might have figured it out when Buddy gets questioned. When but he gets questions so about the kids and just played along, right? They're discussing the video now on Justin's Clutch Some Pearls Live. I'm trying to remember what video that might have been. It's all bullshit, Daniel says. Someone said, explain, Daniel, please do. Daniel said, Cindy's a major player in this case. Wait and see. And then it says, is that why in the video she stands back and doesn't say a word? Her boyfriend probably doesn't know she's up to her ass and shit. Still don't know which one that is. Daniel said Cindy wears the pants in that relationship. Is that the first one? Daniel said Wade never worked, doesn't want to because he never paid child support. Cindy cheats on him. Christine said, sorry, just been busy all day, popped in. Okay. Daniel said Cindy used to write love letters to a guy in prison that murdered and as well as having a boyfriend. Some sad or said. I think probably would be said. Cindy forced Malaya on antidepressants meds at 15. Cindy never raised the kids. Patty did. Malaya raised Hayden because she couldn't. CPS. Cindy has a CPS record. And then Daniel says, want more? Then Haley's in here saying more BS. Daniel says, I got lots. Cindy has a CPS record. Then someone says, and how did Cindy get custody of Meadow with a CPS record then? And then Daniel says, want some on you, Haley. They made a mistake. And then he says, I'm already screenshotted as it is, so I'll shut up. Daniel Martell, did Darren or you find out why they didn't show his interview? Okay, yeah. I mean, that was obviously, the news isn't going to show speculation like that. Daniel said more research is needed to determine facts. In this interview, CBC doesn't want to harm the investigation in any way. Haley, I will not speak on you for now, but if anything comes up from you or Cindy, I will. Malaya, on the other hand, I will not bash anymore. Then he said, don't do it, Haley. Depends on how old the record is and to what extent. Haley says, you don't even know me to speak about me. And honestly, it doesn't bother me. We are here for Jack and Lily, not what you have on me. Daniel says, you're right, Haley. And then he says, I will keep my mouth shut. Tell Cindy and Wade that. Just try to... but you're out speaking for the whole internet, Haley replied. They were speaking to someone with no idea they were recorded. So why should they shut up? You can do something, but others can't. Daniel says, not shame on me lies. Are destroying this case, and it's hard to determine facts from lies. Well, yeah, it is. Your own lies too, though, Haley says. And then someone came in, then Haley unsent a message. Daniel unsent a message. Your own lies, though. I know everyone's emotions, blah, blah, blah. My lies, come on, Haley. I agreed to keep my mouth shut. Haley said, you're inconsistent seeing your story, then however you want to say it. Actually, that was it. This one's just saying the same thing. Oh, I'm sorry, you guys. I should have made that bigger. I didn't realize. I thought I was off the screen on this one. I agree something could have happened accidentally in Vision. Male higher, yeah. Drugs induce psychosis by one or more of the adults. She could have an actual memory block because it's so tragic. I think it's all kind of like that movie, Shutter Island with all the young kid from the Titanic. He ain't young now, but right. Yes, lots of trauma survivors, including myself, have memory loss of what happened. I have no memories from 4 till 9. Trauma survivors, brain blocks. Well, I must have a special brain then because my memory goes like it's sporadic, but you know, none of it's been blocked out. Well, I mean, when you're younger, obviously, you know what I mean? Like, you remember bits and pieces of your childhood typically up until a certain age, you know? Marianne, exactly. Me too. Age 3, crossed the road with a 2-year-old. 2-year-old got hit by a car. She instantly died. We were going to get the mail, have PSD from it. Yeah, that's that's definitely a hard memory to have to, have. My memory, the memory that I have the hardest time with, is when my golden retriever was killed in front of me, and I was. It was wintertime. I was living in Whitecourt, and Bear was like it was Matthew's dog, but it was like my shadow. But anyways, um, whenever I see a golden retriever, I find it hard to look at them because the the videotape in my head, in a sense, keep will replay it. So I always try to block out that part, even though I do remember it like it was yesterday. Because he was cross. It's like when a dog is crossing the road and a car's coming, but it's going slow, and that car stops, and then he's like halfway across the road because he would sneak out, right? Like, we didn't have a fence, but he didn't listen to me as well, for sure. But anyways, and then all of a sudden this car comes whipping by this way, hits him dead on. I see shit flying through the air. I actually think it's part of my dog going through the air, but it was, I guess, the front low rider. And it's because this fucking asshole was on his phone. Didn't even phase him. Like, it's kind of like going down that road, it was like fast. But anyways, I have a very hard time. So whenever I'm thinking of Bear, I still try to block out, like, like, don't take my head there and stuff like that, or when my dad threatened to drive us off the cliff, it's memories that it comes to your brain, but you kind of don't want to think about it. I each to their own, though, on obviously how their brains work, and you know shit that they block out and stuff like that. Who knows? Like I said, all we want to know is the truth of what happened with Jack and Lily. Um, and from the outside looking in, obviously it doesn't look that great, by the people on the property, because of the weirdness of the actions, and you don't know what's true anymore and what's not. And so, to me, if things are inconsistent, because the truth doesn't change, right? So, coupled with the fact that it's so profoundly rare that this would happen to two children, it's just so highly unlikely. So that the typical natural outcome will be is because there was family involvement or somebody close to the kids. It's going to be the typical answer. And I hate to say typical, but unfortunately, it is typical. And but usually it's just with one. Let me see what else. I can feel my voice getting tired. So again, I'm just showing. Um, I'm not. There's no particular order. Um, that one's not really worthy. Just kind of What's this one? Okay. Um, see this one. Okay, so these are messages, obviously screenshotted of stuff Daniel said. Sometimes they would be off my own live or off Justin's live from Clutch Them Pearls, typically. Only because Justin can probably keep his shit in order better than I can, for sure. But anyways, this one says, believe it or not, Lily had 2 black eyes from Wednesday and 2 days before the disappearance. A Tonka truck swung up and hit her in the face at Patty's house. She pushed down on it when she was going around the floor. And then in this particular piece, it says Lily gave Jack the black eye in that photo, which was obviously the different. That's I think that's the photo. Like, remember, I think the school one is. I think that's the one. Daniel says, I'm not sure if Malaya checked on the kids when marking them absent. I was asleep at 6:17. Shocked RCMP when she left, referring to Malaya leaving on the second day there when she just left. She left right in front of a major crime investigator too. Daniel says, did you know Malaya wanted... Shit, he can't even spell her name right. Says Malayan. Wanted to leave. Did you know Malaya wanted to leave? Did you two have an argument? Well, that's at Daniel. The night before. Or that morning. Daniel said, no argument. Daniel says that's a perspective many have, though. Well, I mean, it's not like Darren didn't say that stuff as well, right? So it's just a mixture of a bunch of different people saying different things. But what makes it harder is when Darren's speaking up and everyone's, for Daniel and Janie and, saying his own crap as well. And who knows? So you just don't know what's true anymore. Daniel says, slow down the questions. Yeah, this must be from Clutch Some Pearls. I already have access to the best lawyers. I remember that. Daniel, I'm not going to bash Malaya, though. If you guys are looking for that, I'm not going to do it any longer. Durwood says many things, some over the top to create pressure on the parties involved. You know very well that what the internet thinks. Lily and Jack would fight over toys all the time as kids do, but I get accused of everything. Okay, that's the end of that particular one. I guess let me see what else we got. That one. What's this one? Okay, so Daniel says, I told investigators to polygraph her family, and they are. Have you mentioned this to the police? And then he said, I work with detectives. Okay, sorry. I'm trying to figure out who was the other talker in this. I don't think it was me. That's why this can't get out. Oh, I think this is part. Is this part of Charmaine's one? If it does, then I lose my in with the investigators. No, 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 no. It's not Charmaine's. I don't think. Hold on. What about Hayden? I'm not sure on that one. I'd watch out. He used to be close to Malaya. Why no media standing up for Jack and Lily? Even the natives pulled back and don't want involvement. And then he said he did an interview yesterday and someone said CBC, right? Why can't I think of who this message or like this conversation was with? Yeah, I just did one on the set. The interview that was over an hour long with the cameraman producer's interview. It's out on Tuesday, CBC National. Mine is out on Wednesday. This is a conversation then I believe with Belinda because she's saying hers is out on Wednesday. I think after that comes out, when that world will turn, the world will turn on Malaya. Malaya, this is Daniel. Malaya didn't want to be anywhere near Cody. She was afraid to even drive anywhere close, even. Don't worry, I have a guy on the inside now. I can't say more than that but the evidence is mountain. No, I keep flip flopping who this conversation is. It will hit me. I can't say any more than that because the evidence is mountain. The only problem is it's going to be hard for someone to give up the kid's location. The amount of jail time for this will be unheard of. Don't say anything to anyone about this conversation. Pretty sure this is a Belinda conversation. I'll have to ask her. I won't, but that doesn't make sense because Cody didn't live here. He was in Truro. He only moved back 10 months ago. Yeah, it definitely sounds like Belinda. She was afraid that she would be there and he would show up. I'm being honest. During that time, he even lived in Cape Breton. Yes, but look who Malaya is. I think we finally know that her and her family are a little crazy. Maybe more than a little. um, no, he had no interest in her or the kids, sadly. Yeah, definitely, Belinda. I know, but Malaya's whole life has been nothing but negative. Oh, sorry, I'm yawning. She found me, then she was happy. But Cindy didn't like seeing her daughter how happy or her happy. Now look at the mess. Lily and Jack are innocent and let's see. That one's a replica. So the last time she saw her with the kids, she told us that you weren't happy about it. So we told her that to bring you along if that would help. Okay, so basically, Belinda's saying, Malaya was saying, last time she was here with the kids, she told us that you weren't happy about it and to bring you along. And then Janga says, do you think Malaya was a trustworthy person? At this point, I would not trust a word out of her mouth. You see her fighting for Lily and Jack. Her family has been saying fucked up shit to CPS. That's why I can't see Meadow. Malaya and her family have done so much wrong, not to Jack and Lily, but to everyone. They are giving you supervised visits, so now. She never always spoke the truth, but I really thought she was a good mom. I don't know when it changed. I raised Jack and Lily. I potty trained them. I played outside with them. I taught the kids how to zipper their coats. I did it all. She played on her phone all day. She doesn't know how to raise kids. The kids raise kids. The kids used to hit and bite her and scratch her. She had no control over them. Well, that part sounds about right. I can see the kids acting out on her. I know a lot of moms who let their children get away with too much. No, no, she had zero control over them. I raised Lily and Jack. They just see her as a girl that makes food for them. I know this sounds bad, but I'm being honest. I don't lie. It hurts when I tell the truth, but I can't lie because that's all the world is. No, sorry. All the world is nowadays. People can judge me all they want, but I just like being honest. Okay, that's the other one there. And I'll bring that back up on there. Just coming back. That's why you don't pick up strange men on the Facebook and introducing them to kids. Hi, Meep. I know Wade left after his communication was leaked. Thanks, Hunter. I appreciate that. I'm going to have to check out. I haven't looked if you've put out any videos or anything, lately. A few cases out there, Nancy Guthrie's, but I haven't actually looked at too much for only recently did I even look at that one channel that has Anita on it, just because I wanted to see if there was anything fruitful from that. But that's turning into a big hurricane of a mess, isn't it? But my thoughts are, you let them all go at it. They want to piss each other off and turn on each other and stuff like that. So be it. Um, I don't know. I heard so, but I'm not sure if it's true or not. No, no. I mean, I'd be curious too with Cindy because apparently, if she saw Jack and Lily on the messenger, then she would have saw a black eye and all that. Hi, Sky Painter. Well, that's just it, right? At the end of the day, I'm not here to get played like a fool, and stuff like that. I just look at whatever I deem as important in a sense of a timeline or certain information. But the point is really is that obviously the awareness of Jack and Lily's case is important to do. Regardless, though, the case, in itself doesn't need social media. Well, not really, in a sense, at this point. But meaning the case will get solved by the person or persons that actually have the information about where Jack and Lily are. Um, and so it's kind of like everything's at a standstill because besides maybe clearing up some discrepancies, perhaps, that people want to hear, this case is really at a stalemate or stagnant when it comes to information that we're going to get. I mean, sure, we might pick up a little bit of tidbits here and that, but it's not going to tell us where Jack and Lily are. Are they in the woods buried? Are they in water? I'll say, are they alive for the people out there that think that they are? Um, But it's like, again, how can you believe a timeline, right? If you don't know that you can believe the people that are telling it, because it doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't. It's very inconsistent in the timing and the different things from Malaya. Remember the whole thing? And I know Daniel changed it after the fact, but remember when it was like, I woke up and said to Malaya, "Do you hear the kids?" And then Malaya says, "I woke up, Daniel, did you hear the kids?" Later on, he revised that and said, no, that it was Malaya that said that. But again, you get to a point where you just don't know what is truthful out of a timeline and what is not, because there has to be some truth in there to keep up with any lies as well. Appreciate that. I'm just at a point in this case where, I'm not going to sit here and go off about, like on Daniel stuff. I mean, you guys know how how I've felt about it, about, just the, words kind of going back and forth as well and stuff like that. Like, I'm not going to sit here anymore. Like, meaning I'm not going to sit here and go off on Janie. I might throw in some little funnies here and there, but Malaya, probably right now, Malaya pisses me off the most, probably because it was like, okay, Daniel and even Janie since August, have been out saying stuff and, talking, but Malaya shows up for a search finally, just so she can stand there, I guess, to be the support and stuff like that. I don't give two shits, to be honest with you, besides the fact of where does the truth lie for Jack and Lily, you know? But, just to watch, it's just hard to watch someone show up after all this time has gone by. And now it's like you want to rear your head out, and start like everything else is just excuses. I don't give two flying fucks about your mental health issues at this point, in a sense, when it overrides about a mother bringing the awareness to her own two children, if that makes sense. So it just reminds me of when me and my ex-husband, I felt he was being very selfish, um, because I always took care of our son, and I always try to give our son uh, the love of his mom and his dad, because although his dad wasn't horribly well, he turned into a really shitty dad after, but he wasn't a horribly bad dad before then. But he was insecure for sure in a lot of ways. Um, but it just reminds me of when I was in the garage with him, my ex, that is. And I remember saying to him, like he said, he needed to take care of himself. And I said, and that's okay. But you know what? Our son comes first, meaning you need to fix yourself, go ahead. But to literally sit there and tell me that I have to take care of myself before I can take care of like Matthew, right? And stuff like that. Really? You fucking selfish piece of shit. You're literally going to tell me that you fucking matter more about your mental health issues going on than, and you don't have time to deal with our son shit. But hey, do what you've done the whole relationship. Let me deal with our son. Let me be, because you know what? I would never put myself, I don't care how fucked up I was at the time, whatever, in depression, I would never put myself ahead of the needs of my child. Never. I wouldn't even think to do that. Now, does that mean that I don't have to give myself self love? Absolutely not. But for the ex husband to literally say that he doesn't have time for anybody else, that he needs to take care of himself, right? And he literally had said, our son, right? And I'm like, you selfish bag of shit. I just couldn't imagine who would say that, you know? That reminded me of the time when we were outside and we're having a conversation, and he was like literally saying, well, it seems like you give our son more time than me. And I said, well, I thought I've been pretty balanced, to be honest with you, considering I take care of our son while you're out drinking with your buddies out beside, where we lived all the time. Meanwhile, I'm in the house, because it's Matthew's bedtime and stuff like that. So meanwhile, he's drinking with the friends while I'm doing all the motherly shit, So don't ever come to me and sit there and say, I don't feel like you're giving me enough time. You fucking big baby, right? Shut the fucking front door. Shut the fuck up. So that's how I kind of see this. It's like, you have two children missing. You got fucked up issues. Great. Deal with them. But you know what? Your children should, no matter what, come before you the minute you have children. So you can deal with your shit. But you know what? Don't sit there and give excuses about that you don't feel bad for how long it took, to kind of like when she was speaking to me there, or that you don't have time to talk in a note that supposedly whatever you wrote and stuff like that. And you want other people to keep searching for your children while you're sitting there going, I just can't take it. I can't take the media. I can't take talking about my two children. Right. That's just fucked up. So that's how I see that. That's why, as a mother, like, seriously, if I could throat punch through a computer, I probably would. Just because it's like, get your fucking priorities straight. Remember, you chose to have children. So the minute you chose to have children is the minute you choose to put yourself behind their needs. But in this case, two missing children. Yeah, it was shitty. But, that's the person he became. And to me, it's just like I said. So it's either you dwell on it, like no matter what. I mean, he's done a lot of shitty things, and mine and my son's relationship suffered from it because my son wanted his father's love and stuff like that. But hey, I mean, it sucks. It is what it is. But I'm a fighter at the end of the day. And I know that no one has to agree with my morals on how to do things. But I think when you have two children missing and you're not coming to the forefront, you leave, you make this odd choice to go on Facebook, take Daniel's pictures down, and yet where, like, you don't have no, like I said, you don't have no pain or sorrow for, hiding up until and not saying anything until that point. You wait a year, you don't speak at the vigil, you make excuses for all this shit. Sorry, you guys, there's no part of my body that says I feel sorry for Malaya. You got fucking mental health issues, you were abused and whatever. Again, I'm not here, to sit there and go, oh, well, go to the doctor, get meds, get yourself fixed up. No, where's Jack and Lily? You were on the property. You should be fighting for your kids. So this coming out to do the search and showing your face made me want to vomit. It did. Because she might think that she's, doing all these things. No, you're selfish. Cindy, you're selfish. You guys are selfish. Cindy's been showing her hands and stuff. Show your face. Who cares? Everyone knows your face at this point. But it's just a matter of fighting for Jack and Lily. But the main person this is directed to is Malaya, of course, because she's the mother of Jack and Lily. And that's what I'm saying. Like, anyone that wants to diss Belinda, who's been putting her voice, her face out there, joining lives, being proactive in Jack and Lily, because they're hers, just like they're Malaya's children. They're her biological grandchildren, and she's been so active, since the start of this case. Well, publicly active since the start, but publicly, a few weeks after of doing lives. And what I always remember what Belinda said to me. She said that the reason that she actually ended up accepting my friend request is because I don't just like to put shit out there to put shit out there. Right. I had basically, there was something that somebody wanted me to share. And I said, I don't feel comfortable because it's not like it was verified or anything like that. So, and I don't feel comfortable putting that stuff out there. The stuff that I want to put out there, for the most part, is when you at least have receipts to back it up, or talk about the speculation. But I'm not into, just sitting there, talking smack about a bunch of people and saying a bunch of things and then asking people to believe it, right? Just because Daniel says stuff or Malaya says stuff doesn't mean it's truthful either. But at least that's part of the family, the grouping. And now with this whole Anita thing and stuff like that, well, you know, it's like, oh my goodness. You want to talk about adding more to the circus than the circus is already is? It's like, it's like I said, now it's turning into like a joke again, right? But hey, you know what? If they want to do that shit publicly, and we got nothing else to watch per se, then go have yourself a good giggle and shit, as they reap what they sow for what they're doing in those actions. I only have empathy for Jack and Lily and Meadow. Correct. Love Belinda. Prayers and blessings. Yes, those three are innocent in all this. Poor Meadow. This is the reason they both don't have custody. Yes, amen. Yeah. He was very fluid but glib. Not going to pretend to even know what that sentence means. I don't even know what the word glib is. I know what the word fluid is, but glib, I'm not really sure. What does glib mean? Why is he sleeping in every day with Meadow and not getting up to watch Jack and Lily? I'm still going to call a spade on this one. I think that many times Jack and Lily were, up and about, even outside, and the parents were, sleeping in. I just don't feel like what we would deem as good parenting was going on there. A long time ago, they needed to shed their anonymity. Like, I don't know. I wonder if I've ever done that. Did I ever do that with my son? Lie in bed while he just went and fended. No, can't think that I ever did that. My son was up, I was up. But don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a lot of people that do that shit. Like, not just say Daniel or Malaya, but there's a lot of people out there that do that shit. It's just that for me, to be a parent meant the world to me. And it was my job to protect my child, and I know shit can happen, right? Shit can happen. Look at the, Adam Walsh case and stuff like that. You don't think something's going to happen and then, he gets swiped up and hence why we have, his dad and now the son, America's Most Wanted and stuff like that. I just, yeah. So I just took being a parent very seriously, but I don't want to preach anything here, but because there's a lot of parents that lay in bed and let their kids kind of fend for themselves. I know it's a small trailer. It's not a big house. I just think that the kids definitely, kind of like Malaya said, that when the kids did get out, that Janie would call her. And perhaps it was, the clothes, like, hey, Jack doesn't have his boots on or something like that. And then she'd go get him. But I also don't see, I'd be up, but I don't also see anything wrong with letting the kids kind of go outside in this vast amount of property that's not even close to the road, for someone just to come up and abduct them. you know. But if I was watching TV and I knew the kids would be outside playing, type of thing, I'm always sitting there checking on them and stuff like that. Make sure that everything's okay. But I mean, I feel like that yard though was like a death trap with all the junk that was in it, as well. So it was nice to see that it was finally cleaned up. And again, even Brad made me laugh. Brad's like, basically when Tint took a video, was doing the video drone. Brad's like, I didn't know that my yard looked basically like a shithole. And then he started cleaning it up because he didn't even, when you got the drone footage there, right? And you don't realize what your property looks like until you see it full on yourself. And then you're like, oh, yeah, I guess. Because when you're on ground level, you're not sitting there looking at it from all angles like you are with the pictures, right? I think Janie used the chicken coops as a playpen and locked them in it. Meep. Um, Only way the statement could be true is if they were sleeping, one woke up, said that, did you hear the kids? And then they fell back to sleep. And then that whole point, though, like that whole time, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't. Between what Daniel said and Malaya said during that time frame, it doesn't make sense. Right. I mean, like I said, that whole part, like none of it really makes sense. Hi, Carb. How are you? Okay. All right. You know what? I think I think this chick is hungry. I think that's all I'm going to show for today. Um, like I said, I'm just kind of not into the drama, and I'm going to have my little moments where whatever, but for the most part, it's kind of like, I mean, I've said for months how I feel about this case, and you know, um Daniel, Malaya, Janie, and different things and stuff like that. Just at a point, mostly now, where it's just like, let's just talk about the things and whatever you guys want to talk about. Um, if stuff comes more to fruition, talk about that and stuff. But like I said, you guys know how I feel. You guys, I'm sure, still have your feelings. Some people might still be flip flopping in a sense, but I mean, but that's fine, right? If there's information that makes you see something in a different light, then so be it. I would be willing to do the same, right? That's why, yes, I have my thoughts and speculation, but I'm not set in stone to the fact of that there isn't possibly a different answer out there. But, hey, Brian, but it's kind of like one of those things make me change my mind, that's kind of where I'm at, right? Show me information that's more that can show something else, but I don't think that that's going to happen at this point. You guys have a great night. Thanks for being here, mods. Appreciate it, little mama. Thanks for the new members. Thanks for the 279, Cheryl. And Rhonda, always nice to see you. And yeah, thank you guys all for being here. Don't forget, if you haven't hit that like and share for Jack and Lily, please do. And other than that, um, I'll see you when I see you. Oh, wait, then here she comes, watching from the shadows of the darkness. Much love. Hey, Belinda, quickly, since you're here, did you ever make that comment that was asked about Malaya, I think, abusing Daniel? Did you ever make a comment like that ever? Like in all your talks, do you recall? I think there's something. Oh no, I think that was it. I just don't recall if you did. I just don't remember it. Did Malaya ever get upset at Cody that you saw and where you made a comment about that? Just to clear it up. I can't remember everything anymore. Do, 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 do. I feel like I'm wearing like my, it's like a airy shirt type of thing. Feels like I just took scissors and went like this. Love you too, Rhonda. Good night, Moz. Yes, she was aggressive once. Okay. Okay. So whoever asked before and said that they remembered that you saying that, then I guess you did. I just don't remember it. I can't remember all the fine details anymore. Anyways, hi Raven Star. Yeah, you have to watch the replay on that one. Yeah, I'm gonna go make something to eat. Um, I don't know if I'll do a. It just depends because I'm kind of on the early shifts this week. Like tomorrow I work till 3, and I got off a half an hour early because I worked a half an hour early the day before. Um, and then Thursday I work till 2 my time, and then I have my Friday, Saturday off. So I'll definitely be doing a few lives in the next couple or next few days here coming up and stuff like that. Okay, guys. So, um, anything you guys want to talk about, we'll talk about it next time uh, as well and see what else we talk about. Anyways, thank you guys for being here for Jack and Lily. That's the most important thing. Again, don't take sides for Daniel or Malaya that way, right? Whoever is covering what. Um, it's really just important that Jack and Lily get the answers, and whatever bullshit is happening in the middle and in between of it. Um, as long as maybe at some point something brings the answers for Jack and Lily, um, then honestly, who cares? Is my view on it. Besides the one person that has Anita, he could use a lot of growing the fuck up. Now I'll just say that he can act, try to act like he's a decent human being in life. Anyways, um, Jackie, thank you. Happy to see you back. Again, I'm gonna go see if Justin. I'm gonna go with somebody. I'm gonna see if Justin's on or Charmaine's on still. And other than that, and don't forget if you guys don't watch Ninchi True Crime, watch her. I'm gonna go see also if Hunter True Crime has put out any videos. I haven't looked, so do that. Oh, and another person I said I was gonna bring up. If Danielle believes Malaya had the children picked up, then why does he keep adding to his story? Um, you know what? Give me 1 second and I'll be right back. Because I do want to, I will talk about this again, but just give me a minute. I'll be right back, but I'm just going to play this. Okay. I'll be right back though.
A year has turned like pages since that quiet morning came. 2 little shadows vanished, and nothing's been the same. The woods still hold their silence, the wind still speaks your names, and every road that leads away still carries all our pain. But time don't take the love we hold or dim the light we've known. We're still calling you home, through the dark, through the unknown. Every prayer, every tear says you're never alone. Though the nights feel so long and the answers don't come, we'll keep hope like a fire till you walk toward the sun. We're still calling you home.
I'll come back on there. Okay. That's such a beautiful song. I'm going to have to put a video to that song. at some point here because it's such a beautiful song. It really is. Every just listening to that little piece, I just was wanting to well up in tears again, just thinking about this case. And but what I wanted to quickly talk about again was when I was speaking with Daniel, right, and um, about the timeline and stuff. It's so the timeline that they have drawn leads a very short window of time because with Janie saying what Janie said, it puts the children that she heard them after 9 o'clock, right? Because she had a phone call, went back in, had a nap and stuff like that. So if a vehicle would have driven up to the property, right, it's unlikely, or even to the driveway, either the dog would have barked, right? And, so I think that that seems highly unlikely that a stealth car drove up and then somehow, the kids were heard. And then that she said she would have heard, like, come on, Jackie boy type of idea. But the timeline is very hard when it's such a short span of time to think that these children were abducted by a stranger that was somehow going to know that these children that supposedly never go out of the yard, at least let's say go out of the yard. That's a decent sized driveway, right? So the likelihood that somebody would do something that they don't normally do, according to the parents, is unlikely. That it would have been a stranger abduction. Janie said she didn't believe it either, right? Because the chances of someone that would know that the children would go to the end of the road with something that they would not do, and then all of a sudden get picked up by some sort of predator that was just, oh shit, 2 kids, like candy. Nope. Okay. The blanket says it all about that this was not, to me, a stranger abduction. The blanket is not going to be some stranger digging in the garbage, going to the rail where this blanket say was, this piece of the blanket, and then propping it up in the tree. So when we were talking with Daniel, of course, the other day, I said, well, what do you think happened because of the timeline, right? I mean, he doesn't believe that Malaya or Cindy now. As it is, he says he's not really sure anymore about it. But the bottom line is, again, in this small time frame of a window, if those children were heard by Janie, like I said, the dog would be barking, she would be awake, from Tucker barking there. And again, that whole thing morphed into the fact of someone from Malaya's side has taken them, that Malaya being the root of it, would have had these children taken and hidden somewhere by friends or on a reserve. So again, the likelihood that no one has, claimed the reward, or nobody has outed, you know, for having knowledge of where Jack and Lily are alive, it doesn't make sense at all. Now, to think that Malaya had her family members plant the blanket in the tree, again, that Malaya did that by herself or alone or had no knowledge, obviously that doesn't seem very likely. But the blanket was planted, right? So, again, in asking Daniel, there's only so many theories about the kids. In the woods, highly unlikely, unless they're buried in the woods, but highly unlikely that these two children that, Janie and Daniel both says that he didn't believe that their children were in the woods. And, again, some people might take that as, well, Daniel, because you're saying that they're not in the woods means that their chances are they're in the woods, but you don't want people to know that they're in the woods. So don't search there type of idea. But the bottom line is drones, dogs, the children getting that far, the children not being seen if they were walking down a road by at least a vehicle, is unlikely. Now, I know that when it comes to the blanket and Ninchi True Crime, like I said, had asked about the blanket, and they said that there was only one, and I can't remember the person that answered back, but they also answered back about the boss, right? Basically, like the boss, it wouldn't have captured the blanket on the way that the camera was, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe that Ninchi actually got a reply back from that as well. And but the thing is there was something I remember, but either way, that the camera wouldn't be facing that angle or would have seen it or whatever, because if anything, if a camera is on the bus, it's usually going to be at the front of the bus, facing, all the children and stuff, and keeping an eye, whatever. But anyways, again, it just goes to the likelihood of all these few theories, right? So they put so much time into all this, the searching and all that stuff. Couldn't find diddly shit, not even, nothing, not a knapsack somewhere, a piece of clothing at all whatsoever. And it's just, again, usually children. Like, we have to think about the words that were said. Like, Janie said that basically she would have to carry Jack up into the woods, right? And that Jack really didn't want to do anything if he didn't want to do it. But it seems so unlikely that kids would traverse into the woods, or at least very far, that they wouldn't have been able to be found during that searching time, when they did show up, soon and stuff like that. So then it just leads back to, okay, then, Daniel, if if these scenarios are typically the most unlikely, and the most likely scenario is that the people on the property have the knowledge, and that there's inconsistencies and the timeline doesn't make sense, it's, it doesn't take a Harvard graduate to look at this case and be stinky-eyed at the people on the property. Maybe Janie knows something, maybe she doesn't, right? Daniel, he's claiming his innocence to it. Malaya, she's hiding and basically, claiming she just wants the kids back, the kids back, the kids back. But it's still, like I said, this isn't rocket science. It's not unlikely to think that the children were harmed by the people on the property because of just basics 101 of a case, and following what we've witnessed. So when you look at each scenario, and again, cases typically involve control, drugs, money, abuse, and stuff like that going on. Well, this case has every element of all of those things, right? Now, some people might want to think that the children were sold. Again, the unlikelihood that the RCMP, would not be able to have this surmounting evidence, with vehicle movement, people movement, still nobody claiming the reward. It's just their thoughts, but they're such on the low end of the totem pole when it comes to, what would have happened to Jack and Lily, right? So any of the cases that I've personally followed, which is a lot, when it comes to children, it will always, every case I've watched, will always come back to the parents, or someone that's closely involved with the family, someone that would have all this knowledge. So that's what I'm going to say about that. Other than that, I'm going to get going here, but time will tell, and hopefully that time isn't too far off in the future. But you guys, yeah, have a good night. I had chicken pox when my son was 5, 103. I still got up and took care of them. Like I said, parent does what they need to do. That's the bottom line of it. Anyways, you guys have a beautiful night. Belinda, thank you for popping up at the end there. Miss Shadow in the dark. Okay, anyways, good night, you guys. I'll see you maybe tomorrow or the next day.